Hello friends, welcome to my very last project as a Vicki Boutin design team member. I'm doing a mixed media project using almost all of the pattern paper from the new Wildflower and Honey collection from Vicki Boutin. This just released July 10th. It started shipping to stores, so I don't know if you guys have had a chance to get it yet, but if you do, the patterns are just gorgeous. So I'm going to try it and make wave. I freehand cut these wave shapes on my glass mat with a blade, and I wanted lots of different patterns in rainbow colors. So I started with the red, orange, yellow, obviously, Roji Biv. So I'm going to use this navy blue honeycomb as the base, and I'm just trying to use my mat and try to make sure that I have enough wave patterns to span an entire 12-inch layout. So I'll be using American Crafts white texture cardstock as the base so that all of these strips can be cut skinnier and I won't have to use a whole piece. That way I'll have the background and I can stitch on each of these waves. So I'm thinking that I want to machine stitch with my sewing machine on each of the waves, and here I'm trying to figure out the proportions. I know that I want the strips to get wider as I get towards the bottom of the layout. I've got it turned sideways just so I can fit it on my mat here. And then once I get the last piece cut, I can go about trimming off the edges, and I just wanted to make sure that I could cover the entire cardstock and not have any white background showing. So now that I have it kind of figured out and I have all the patterns chosen, I can trim them up so that I can save those other pieces of the pattern paper. Now you see I have a leftover piece of the white foundations paper, and here's my background American Crafts texture cardstock that I'm going to layer all these pieces on. So the waves are all different. I like that effect. And they're kind of layered from the bottom up and from the top down. So now the pieces on the top are going to be layered over one another, and it's going to kind of work towards the center. You see the center piece is not layered over anything. So I'm going to trim that one. I don't want to waste this pattern. It's too pretty to waste. So I'll use that kind of graph paper with all the mixed media splotches as the background. And I'm going to go off camera and stitch each of these wave pieces once I get these trimmed to how I like, and cut down as much as possible to save on the excess there. Once I trim down those, oops, I had to go get a coffee there apparently. So I'm going to stitch and then bend up. So here I've gone off camera and stitched each of the pieces. I'm going to be using the American Crafts red line tape. This is super sticky red tape that you can use for book binding. I'm going to use a spatula to grab the liner off of there. It's easier than trying to use your fingernail. And then I'm just going to line up everything with the base cardstock. So it'll go the navy and the teal, and I love that you can see all the different gorgeous patterns in this Wildflower and Honey collection. There's so many pretty subtle patterns, but with deep, rich colors. So I've got the green next. It's got like a small leaf, small branch pattern, so it's tone on tone as well. The reason I'm using the red line tape is because I want to make sure when I have this many layers, I want to make sure they're not going to go anywhere and they're held on there well. And plus with the stitching, it's easier to adhere them with the red line tape. So now you can see I'm probably going to have to trim that leaf pattern, the larger leaf pattern, because the red line tape is not letting it go down far enough. So I just trim off the excess, and now you're starting to see how this is going to come together. And once again, I said that graph paper is going to be the background for the center. So everything kind of works from the top down to the center, and then from the bottom to the center as well. So I'll lay the red piece on top and then tuck the orange underneath that. And I like the fact that these freehand cut waves, they just look really organic, and I definitely, for my last project for Vicki Boutin, I wanted to use as many patterns as I could. And I'll just tuck each one of these under. I'm cutting the red line tape because it's so wide. I think it's a full 1/4 inch. No, this is 1/2 inch. So I'm cutting it in half just so that I only have the very top portion adhered. And that way I can go back later once I have everything adhered down and bend up the edges to give lots more texture and dimension. So here you see I've got that text paper that's going to go underneath. And I'm once again cutting the red line sticky tape in half. And you'll notice I'm only putting the red line tape at the very, very top or at the bottom of the layout, the very bottom. And so now I'll have to decide how much of that graph paper I want to cut off. I'll cut off the excess and see if I want it to go from the bottom up or the top down. Anyway, it just needs to fit in the background to meet in the middle where all of the waves kind of center. Just trying to get this lined up with the edge. And if there is any excess hanging off the background cardstock, you can flip it over at the very end and trim that off with scissors. So that's not really a worry right now. I just want to make sure that everything is covered. So the last large scale leaf pattern goes here. I like the way that the stitching almost gives it a quilted. It almost looks like fabric when you stitch on these kind of pieces like this. So there we go. We've got all of the patterns there, and I'm just going to adhere some of the sides that didn't get adhered down. There we go. So you can bend up all the edges there. I'm just flipping it over, and now you can use your scissors to go right along the edge and trim off anything that you don't, any excess. So this extra piece, I had a scrap piece of the mixed media white foundations paper from Vicki Boutin. I'm going to use a piece of washi tape to kind of ground that white foundations paper in the center, and that's going to create a mat. This is going to create a mat so that I can house my photos, my journaling, and a few embellishments here. I'm trying to decide from the die cut pack where I want to put the photo and where I want to put die cuts on this. So I'm trying out different die cuts, seeing what I like. There's 2 ephemera die cut packs in the Wildflower and Honey collection. So I really like that you get 50 pieces in each. So you've got 100 choices there, which is great. And so what I want to do is try out most of them and see which ones suit the layout the best. I've got the vellum butterflies at the very edge of the white mat just to kind of soften the line, the harsh line between the white mat and the very richly colored background. And here you see that I decide I want to use the packaging. So this is the packaging from the die cuts, and I want to use it to create another mat for this photo. I'm just going to rip it because I kind of tore the bottom of the foundations paper, and I'm liking how this is going so far. And then I decide that I also want to soften the edges with some mixed media. So I'm going to use the art crayons in different colors, and I'm going to try to match it up to the background. So I'll do red first up near the red section. Sorry, I'm a tiny bit off camera here, but I wanted to crop it a little bit so that you guys didn't have to see the excess background there. So you can see I'm using the honeycomb stamp from the Wildflower and Honey collection stamp set. I've moved that mixed media paper down so you can see my stamping. So I'm just free form stamping this in kind of messy fashion, dipping it in the art crayon mixed with water and then going to the next color. The great thing about this is that you can custom mix your colors. So if you need to add more neutral, you can add, for instance, the yellow might be too bright, you can just add some purple to neutralize it. So here we're going to the light teal or the turquoise. And I'm just going to keep stamping all around the edge of this with the different colors. I'm leaving my background cardstock with all the wave patterns there just so that I can try to match up the colors. I'm going to eyeball the colors and custom mix art crayons. So now I have to try to mix a navy. So I'm going to mix black and bright blue. And then I still need to add some more blue in there to get it more saturated color, and that matches the teal. And then I'm just going to use a little bit of the pigment ink there to stamp a truer dark blue. So now that we have all of that mixed media done, I'm going to clean up the area here just so it doesn't get on my layout. Now we have the base. I'm trying to show you the stamping all around the outside there. I'm going to lightly adhere this down just in case. I've done this before where I want to tuck something under it. So I'm going to just put adhesive in the center and place the washi tape back, and now I can go about focusing on adding the mat and the journaling. I went ahead and typed this on my computer because it needed to be in a certain area. It just was 1.5 by 6.5, so that way I could size the text box and make sure that my journaling, I double spaced it as well, so that way it would fit the area. Now I'm using the T-square ruler and that chipboard from the Wildflower and Honey chipboard thickers. I'm going to use red line tape to adhere that packaging down, just so I'm sure it's not going to go anywhere. And I used also red line tape behind the chipboard, and then I just have to adhere the journaling strip, and we're very nearly done. I'm just making sure that I have everything adhered down so I won't go back later and everything's in the bottom of the page protector. So I have the photo here. It's a 2x3, and I'm going to use about an 1/8 inch or a 1/4 inch. Yeah, it's about a 1/8 inch mat there. And then I'm going to place back my vellum butterflies right at the edge, and then all I have to do is add the honeycomb washi tape, or decide which washi tape to use, on top of the photo. And I really enjoyed being on the Vicki Boutin design team. I did mixed media projects every week for an entire year. I started last August 1st, so I've been on the team for a year, and I really love being on this team and getting all the beautiful products and getting to learn about the other designers and Vicki, and actually learned so much about mixed media. I almost use it on every layout now. So here's the finished layout. I just have to adhere the photo with washi tape at the end, and I'm just trying to show you a close-up of all the stitching and how everything turned out. I really appreciate everybody and their kind words, encouraging comments in the Vicki Boutin Facebook community. The mixed media community on Facebook that she has is really a great place to get some feedback on your layouts and to share your layouts with Vicki Boutin products. So this is the very end. I think I'm trying to decide what else I could add. I look at the stickers. I really like the holographic gold, so I'm thinking about adding some of those bee stickers, since I have a lot of the honeycomb elements on the layout, but I think I'm going to just leave it be and let it stand as more of a clean and simple layout. Now, here are the Vicki Boutin washi tapes that come in the Wildflower and Honey collection. I'm trying out this paint splotch one, and I think it's a little bit too much, so I'm going to go with an all-over pattern, and I'll choose the honeycomb, the black and gold there, just because it's a neutral and we already have a lot of color on the layout. So just a tiny piece of that honeycomb washi. I'm going to show you all the washis that come in the set there. So it's a little bit out of focus, but they're really beautiful. So I'm going to rip that other edge, and thank you so much for joining me. I love it if you'd like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.